And so for round one, we are going to see John Dawson on the left here playing a Slivers deck. So this is going to be some little off meta, something to spice it up. And Sam is our Super Friends specialist, is here again with his Bant brew.
Yeah, Sam has really stuck to this Bant brew for quite some time. It's very impressive. And I like that John is busting out the Slivers, a deck wholly unaffected by the by the goings on of the day.
Very unconcerned, in fact, with Stoneforge Mystics or Faithless Lootings or Risen Necropoli.
Looks like Sam will shock in a breeding pool and drop a Noble Hierarch.
Looks
going
like
to 18.
John has an Ether Vial going to start curving out more Slivers at a time. And that is a Metallic Mimic on Slivers.
I honestly have no idea what this list is supposed to look like, so why not? Metallic Mimic.
I believe it is.
It's a sliver.
Entirely its own brew, so I don't think it's sticking to any particular thing. So I believe that is a striking sliver. I think that's the first strike one. So we're going to see.
I believe that. First strike is secretly very good.
Yeah.
Or maybe not so secretly.
I mean, it's not good. You know, there are plenty of matchups where it doesn't do anything, but, you know, every once in a while you're looking at a Thalia and you're just very, very frustrated that that is not just a 2-1.
So Sam will fire off the Field of Ruin, the old turn 2 Field of Ruin. And I wonder if we're going to see how many basics John is playing over the course of this matchup.
Well, odds are, given how long the search has gone on, it's not terribly many.
No.
But it is at least one. Got that Odyssey Cloud Plains.
Yeah,
there.
it's a beautiful art. I imagine at most we're playing 2 basics on John's side.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it's more than that. It doesn't seem reasonable because I think there's at least 3 colors in that deck.
Yeah, I think I'd play 1 and you just hope to get an Aether Vial or scoop to Blood Moon. Blood Moon's not super popular right now.
No. It's not great in the format, and it's not played that much.
But the format's about to change.
I'm so excited.
So it looks like John's debating whether they want to play more creatures here.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, the Slivers, with every ability that adds on to every other creature, you could end up in a place where you might want to play out something pre-combat to add additional effects. But we're going to see another Metallic Mimic and a Vial activation.
So since Mimic's a shapeshifter, does Mimic have all the creature types?
Can
we get Metallic Mimic up on the screen, please?
I'm not entirely sure.
But I suppose by how John's playing, I would guess it's not.
Yeah.
We do get 2 counters on that Gemhide Sliver.
That is one beastly sliver tapping for any color of mana. So Sam's deck notably is not the fastest in the world. It's got a lot of power and a lot of options with all those planeswalkers, but he's a little bit vulnerable to just these linear aggro strategies. And if he does stick a planeswalker right now, I'm not sure how he's going to defend it from the onslaught of creatures. So here's Jace. But I'm not sure how long Jace is going to survive in the current environment. That Metallic Mimic doesn't help me at all. Let's see if we can try There we go. It is a shapeshifter. Metallic Mimic is the chosen type in addition to other creature types. So it looks like we did have a little bit of a miss on the second Metallic Mimic.
Which is totally understandable.
Yeah, not receiving a counter from the first Metallic Mimic, which was naming Sliver. So here we are. We're going to brainstorm with Jace.
Brainstorm in the face of quite a few attackers on John's side. I wonder if Sam's just thinking, gotta get a little bit of value out of this Jace, and hopefully save some damage with it as a speed bump here.
Yeah, If you're John in this position, are you actually attacking the Jace, or are you just all face?
It's a tough That's a tough question. It really depends on kind of what if his deck has any sort of reach. If the deck has reach, then maybe you do try and get the Jace off the board. But if you feel like if this game goes long, you're just dead. The other thing is Sam does play Gideon of the Trials, I believe, which
Mm,
is a way to kind of stabilize. So if you ignore, I've seen this before with Sam's deck. If you ignore the planeswalkers, sometimes the Gideon of the Trials will get dropped, and then a verdict will clear your board, and it's just you're just not going to be able to come back. So
okay, looks like there was a choice to hit the Jace. We've added vigilance to our keyword soup for the sliver abilities here. Um,
which conveniently allows them all to tap for mana after attacking.
so useful. And yeah, if Sam is running a lot of board wipes here, then for sure taking out the Jace is the right call. And I believe he is, because his deck is a little bit of a control-ish shell with all the planeswalkers as well.
Do you think? Do you think? Okay,
Oh,
well,
but
I
Sam's
guess it
Sam doesn't
works.
have it here, so
I was gonna say, do you feel like John's tactic of just kind of, let's basically run out everything and hope it works? Do you feel like that's the right choice, or do you think it would have been better to maybe leave some in hand?
um I actually would consider that. Yeah, I would consider holding back a little bit in the face of wrath effects, because if you're a deck that's not generating a ton of card advantage, you're an Ether Vial deck, you're really just dumping everything on the board and trying to get them dead. You can really end up in a unrecoverable position if you get blown out by a board wipe. Sam obviously didn't have it there, but if I don't know how many copies of wrath effects he might have and whether they're worth playing around. So we've got sideboard options for both players. Sam here is looking at a couple copies of Rest in Peace, a couple Damping Spheres, a Celestial Purge, Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Negate, a Snapcaster, a Geist, a Wrath, an Engineered Explosives, and a Disenchant. And I think here I'm pretty interested in the Wrath, and I'm pretty interested in the EE. Um, I might be interested in the Snapcaster Mage, just as a blocker plus reuse a path or something like that, but I'm not entirely sure. Um, Not a lot of the rest of this seems relevant.
Mm-hmm. And John has a few paths, a couple of rest in pieces, damping spheres, 2 necrotic slivers, 3 harmonic slivers, and 2 unsettled mariners. So from John's side, I do think something like necrotic sliver is quite good in this case, as it is a way to deal with planeswalkers. It's a little bit of an expensive way to deal with walkers, but it does seem like there may be points in the game where John will have slivers that are worth getting rid of, or it could be that John is able to keep Sam off of the 4 mana needed to do a wrath effect, and it's worth it to kind of like play around a wrath effect by essentially vindicating a land.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it also, I think Sam's deck is not super fast, so you can it's a little bit more affordable to be bringing in something that's less efficient, like a necrotic sliver. And if you're facing down removal, necrotic sliver gives you a way to get value out of anything that is going to get pathed or wrathed away.
Right, it's almost like the closest thing to a somewhat decent mana sink that Slivers gets. I
Yeah.
suppose besides what's the sliver land that they
Sliver
have?
hive.
Sliver
Sliver
Hive.
hive.
So that's an okay one, but I'd also consider bringing in Unsettled Mariner. We haven't really seen exactly what Sam's looking at for interaction, but the Mariner could buy a little bit of time from single target
Yeah.
effects.
I think a lot of he's got some of the planeswalker abilities that are targeted. Jace bouncing. I imagine he has some Teferi effects. I wanted to shout out and a thank you to Foodle here for a subscription. And just in time for them to kill your deck. What deck is being
Yeah,
killed?
Feudal, which was your deck?
And I'm sorry. Condolences. A lot of things happened this day.
Thanks for subbing for 6 months too. We really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
super appreciated.
Looks like players checking out opening hands here.
Looks like John's gonna take a mulligan. Sam considering. Sam on the play, so I guess we're keeping 7 for Superfriends, and we'll see what Slivers is about. I just have to say, it's really good to see y'all on Mondays. It's nice when you get to see the same people coming around again.
Yeah, even after a big GP in Vegas,
Oof, so tiring.
still got people showing up.
You guys are great.
So it looks like Sam has decided to keep.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in Sam's position, that likely means that I have a hand with a bit of a lower average CMC than maybe the last hand had, as well as hopefully some bits of interaction.
Yeah, dropping your curve in this matchup seems like the way to go, especially in a deck that doesn't necessarily establish a ton of early board position.
Sam just kind of was messing with his cards and took what was a path to exile out of his sleeve, so he does have a path.
Oath of Nissa. All right. Let's get some value. Gonna grab planes, set up all this mana.
Sam's been rocking those GP lands for a while too. It's
They're
kind of
good looking.
his style of choice.
Land vial go.
It's a good start.
All right, let's see if we start building a gigantic sliver board state. Can we go 1 drop, 2 drop? All right, Bird of Paradise sliver here. Gem Hide sliver to be specific. We're going to fetch into turn from Sam, going to 19. Got some pain about the VNR in the chat. Actually, yeah, if anyone wants to chime in on how they're feeling right now, can we get a happy sad? Because I know that there are some faithless looters in there that are not feeling so hot today.
I have a feeling that maybe there's going to be slightly more happies than sads from today, but it certainly did hurt some of the decks that people love to play.
Yeah. They killed your baby. What's your baby? Are you another Phoenix player? That's unfortunate timing. All right, we've got a Sunbaked Canyon for John here. And what do we got?
Oh, Feudal. I totally don't think Dredge is. I actually think Dredge is in a great spot.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't worry too much about that one.
Yeah, I wanted to actually talk about this a little bit. So we've got Sentinel Sliver coming out for some Vigilance. Cloud Shredder Sliver. This is gonna give. This is a Modern Horizons piece, I believe, and that's gonna give some haste and flying. Except it's not, because Celestial Purge is gonna send that guy straight to exile, and our Vigilant Sliver is not going anywhere.
This is a great hand for Sam, having both a Celestial Purge and there's still a path chilling in hand. So as long as Sam has some gas to follow this up with, this is kind of the ideal start for him.
Yeah. I would strongly agree. So yeah, actually, I think regarding Dredge, if I'm playing in a tournament soon, I am absolutely trying to figure out if I can find a substitute for Faithless Sitting and Dredge. Because if there's a reasonable substitute available, now is the time to get like maximum equity out of the dip in Graveyard Hate, because everyone's going to dump their ley lines because Ding Dong the Witch is dead. So right now I'm trying like Hedron Crab, I'm trying Stitcher Supplier, and unfortunately they all kind of function like extra copies of Shriekhorn, which is not as much as you want in terms of like picking the cards you're discarding, because looting just basically says the best 2 of the 8 cards in your hand, put them in the discard. But if you can find a way, then I think now's a great time. And yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. Inquiry is, I tried it. I tried it. Anyway, sidebar over. We've got Gideon Ally of Zendikar coming down for Sam here, and an emblem made.
Is Inquiry terrible because you could possibly discard your own second land and be like stuck without a second land? Like why? Because in theory, to me, Inquiry also sounds good, but I'm not a Dredge player.
So Inquiry is the problem with Inquiry is that it doesn't function if you don't already it doesn't function well if you don't already have dredgers in the graveyard. It does not make a good turn one enabler. With Faithless Looting, you pick up 2 cards, you put 2 dredgers in the graveyard, you put a dredger in the payoff, and like you're off to the races. Inquiry, you can do that and dump, your Cathartic Reunion, stuff you really don't want to be dumping, and still not enable yourself.
Sure.
And so, Inquiry makes a great follow. I did like running a couple copies when I was experimenting, turn 2, Faithless Looting, dump dredgers, Inquiry, blow up, because it's incredibly explosive when it works. But it's real difficult. And actually, Neonate is a really good call, because Vibe Pizza in there is suggesting Neonate, and what you are looking for is that intentional discard more than the incidental mill.
Good points. So we are currently at the point where Sam is attacking in with his Gideon Ally of Zendikar, which usually means that the game for Sam feels fairly wrapped up. John had kind of a flurry of slivers that hit the board early, but it's felt like the onslaught has kind of slowed here. And John without any slivers that pump his crew, so a lot of fairly small creatures out there.
Yeah. And that Heart of Kieran is not unthreatening.
We do know that John is playing Blasphemous Act in his Slivers deck, and we do have a Sliver out there that combos well with Blasphemous Act.
Yeah, Blasphemous Act's going to be a bit expensive right now, because I believe it's 9, reduced by 1 for each. He's got the Gem Hide, though. So he's got 4 mana available, and there are 5 creatures. So I think we're there. We're there! Can we pull a Blasphemous Act? Sam has a read. I forgot about the Gem Hide
what
Sliver.
this does is it wins the game. And unless Sam has... Okay. So now it doesn't win the game.
Whew. That clutch path. Oh, that's
so sad.
I think I found the I think I may have found the critical flaw in the Blasphemous Act, the Spiteful Act strategy here.
It's just too cool to win the game sometimes.
I hate those strategies when you're like, except Path to Exile is a card. Never saw it coming. Oh, that's a shame.
Wait, what happened to the basic planes? It looks like John failed to find. Did he maybe side out the basic planes?
I am unclear. That seems strange. Unless he has...
I don't know why.
It may be in hand. He has a card in hand.
Okay. I don't know why I'm fixating on this basic planes.
I mean...
It doesn't really matter, right?
He did just Cracker Highs and Canopy, so he's missed his land drop.
Yeah.
This is awkward.
Well, Sam likes to play decks that are fairly resilient and, have answers to things. So...
Boom.
That's a significant hit.
I think John went to 4, actually.
Hart comes in for 4. Gideon comes in for 5.
Yeah. Like, Sam's deck is a little slow, but when it decides to close, it's taking big chunks out of your life total.
John almost got to do the thing. But, hey, one more go around to do the thing.
It's just like, it's such a swingy blowout. Like, he's just... This is my card that wins the entire game. I mean, wraths my entire board.
Yeah. Yes, the beatdown plan from John seems like maybe a little mopey.
I mean, this time around, last time it got the job done.
It did, but it even was like a little mopey last time around, even though it got the job done.
Yeah. I there may or may not be better decks in Modern at playing small creatures and turning them sideways. I don't know.
Unbelievable.
Maybe I'm not the best person to ask. I'm not really an ether vial person, but...
Looks like players not switching around sideboards too much. Sam's taking just a quick peek through.
Just gonna maybe just run it back here.
Hoofly is also a big fan of the Spiteful Act combo.
Unsettled Mariner is available, and that
It's
would,
just
I mean,
uh,
Sam, he has target interaction. I'm not sure. He tends not to use all his mana every turn, but possibly.
yeah, I think the Mariner, yeah, unless you're really putting a lot of pressure on Sam's life total, then I guess it could work. Unfortunately, the surprise factor is now gone.
Womp womp.
Um, but maybe I almost, if I'm John, would have kind of pump faked a little bit here and did some quote sideboarding at the very least to maybe make Sam second guess whether I sided out the Blasphemous Act combo element of the deck. Um,
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty clever. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure. Does that, if you're Sam and you suspect that John has sided out Blasphemous Act, how does that change what you're doing?
you maybe, well, you're maybe not as worried when the uh, spiteful sliver comes out, and so, or you might not feel like you need to path that sliver specifically. But if you believe the combo's there, then maybe, you're definitely saving your removal for that sliver.
That's true, and you might take additional beats from something else.
Right.
Maybe not hit that Cloud Shredder next
Right.
time if you don't have redundancy. Speak of the sliver, and he shall appear.
So
Gotta
Cloud
get in
Shredder
there.
giving everything haste and flying. People thought flying was a blue sliver ability.
Not so.
No.
We've got the whole Modern Horizons, Boros, Flying Sliver, Drag Race, Air Force. I don't know. I don't know.
Yes.
Honestly, not one of the better Modern Horizons archetypes in Limited, I think.
Yeah.
Not one I'm really into.
But it's got a lot of fun. Wow.
Disenchant came in for the Ether Vial.
It's been a second and a half since I've seen Disenchant.
Yeah, I knew he
played.
had one, but I wasn't sure he'd bring it in here just for Ether Vials. Also, I want to note, Foil 7th Edition Disenchant takes out Foil Darksteel Ether Vial. For Super Friends versus Slivers, I'm really liking the flex.
That's pretty good. And I assume, if you're Sam, you have to play that even though they printed that like strictly better Disenchant that can be played with a green or a white.
Yeah, no, that's a Foil 7th Edition Disenchant. You jam that.
Yeah. There we go.
Predatory Sliver.
There's our +1/+1 sliver. Got some power on the board. Looks like Sam goes to 16 according to his count.
Yeah, I think that's 1 off Cloud Shredder, 1 off his fetch, and 2 off the...
And John's sitting on a bunch of 2/2 flying hasty birds of paradise.
Sliver Bear Birds.
Yeah, Vibe Pizza. We're about that, especially round 1. That's what we're all about.
Round 1 is very much this.
Oof.
Also, Eon 2.
Seems good.
That's a many for one. Also, I think really stops your progress here if you're John and you're holding another 2-drop. You're like,
Bowl.
oh.
Well,
A little mopey.
They're a bunch of little shocks this turn, I guess.
That is 6 damage. That's not nothing. I mean, if he just wants to hold off and swing for 6. I mean, this is the part where you're playing around a board wipe and you're just like, how long do you want me to hit you for...
Whoa.
Okay, that's aggressive.
Yeah.
So he wants to hit for 12 here.
Okay.
So Sam's going to go to 4. All right, well, okay, that makes sense. That actually changes the clock. And you are going to get just absolutely blown to bits by this EE, but it does change your clock.
It was
relevant.
So this Sinew Sliver was 2 mana for 6 damage that turn.
All right,
which is reasonable.
Yeah, that's a rate. And now you force Sam's next turn. Sam doesn't get any other options.
Right.
And so assuming you can follow with anything. Now, I don't know how many cards John has left in hand here, so the follow with anything may be.
This would be a great situation if John had something like a collected company.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, I think you pressure for 4, you hold up 2 more for the... Why are you...
There we go. There's this spiteful sliver.
I hope the alarm bells are ringing.
So,
Spiteful slivers cost 3, so that's fine.
right, insulated from the EE.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
John would have probably had
Yeah,
to
I would have
have
just retained priority and
Blasphemous acted there.
taken that act.
So my guess is then Sam reads probably no Blasphemous act currently.
Yeah.
Interesting that he did let John go to combat there, which means the Spiteful Sliver was able to come down with haste. Okay. All right, now it makes sense.
Path anyway.
John will get his singular planes and be left with no board.
So this Slivers deck, it can present a lot of things.
Yes.
Very quickly, we're looking at, I think, 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, it doesn't
This
feel...
is the turning point.
Yeah, this is where you kind of have to hope that Sam has nothing. But I believe I saw another Cloud Shredder Sliver in John's hand, so, you know, you just Bloodbraid Elf that little feller out there and get in there for one.
That would be your approach. You just Bloodbraid out everything you need.
Yeah, you know, haste creatures, Bloodbraid Elf.
Same.
Oh,
Here's
well, that'll blanket. Sam, no fun zoning all of the slivers with magic cards that have other text.
There's Narset. And Heart of Kieran, which is going to start messing with this game plan quite a bit. Okay.
I'm almost always rooting for Sam when he plays. This is one of those very few times when Sam is not the, quote, underdog in my mind.
Yeah, we've definitely gotten to the part of the game where Sam swinging around those big walkers is going to be very effective. So here's Metallic Mimic and a pass. I'm not...
Okay. I think Sam drew a supreme verdict. You could.
It's a game action. It may not be entirely necessary. You are at 4. And so, like, if John is going to bring down anything hasted, and he's got a Gideon in hand.
So you're still insulated from the... Okay. So Sam's going to manage to get both Gideons and Emblem here, which
seems
we were talking about this earlier. How this might be good here.
I'm not entirely sure, but it's possible.
Okay. I think Sam with the correct choice to pass. Yeah. Debating whether it's time to get aggressive with the Heart of Kieran.
No, I don't think so.
John does have the combo finish available, and Sam is probably still wondering kind of exactly what John's deck has in it, but I think still the correct choice to sit back on D here.
Yeah, well, I don't think John's deck is actually able to combo kill right now because Blasphemous Act, and it's cost 9, reduced by number of creatures on the battlefield, but he doesn't have the Gemhide Sliver, so he can't double tap for mana. So we're right now looking at a Blasphemous Act that still costs 7. And so that's not super available unless he vials something in, but it's still not close.
Right.
The heart would have to get crewed, and I think crewing the heart right here is great. You can just take out the Cloud Shredder Sliver. Like, okay, you're still taking 2, but yeah.
We'd also need the Spiteful Sliver on the board, so there's a number of
there's a few steps missing.
Yeah. Looks like probably Gideon Ally of Zendikar are gonna come.
Dun, 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 dun. Here's a knight.
I think I'm probably about ready to start getting in with the heart at this point if I'm Sam.
So. Slam. For you.
John just taking a quick read.
Vial activation.
Okay.
Another Cloud Shredder Sliver.
Second Cloud Shredder. I mean, this would make it a game if Sam did not have the Gideon emblem. I think it's
Yeah.
the Gideon emblem that really throws a wrench in things. And Sam's setting up nicely to force John to overextend onto this board and then Supreme Verdict all the slivers
Yeah.
away.
Sam is doing a really good job of drawing that out because, you know, even the Night tokens and the Heart of Kieran sitting there at ready to block forces John to keep playing out creatures to get wide and try to get through. Again, I'm not sure what he's going to do about the, you know, it's going to be difficult for him to overcome those emblems, but this really, really demands overextension, and it's going to get super punished if Sam can't just straight close out the game.
Yeah, and not only that, but I believe that Spiteful Sliver does not let you target planeswalkers with the damage, but I'd have to check. So even a Blasphemous Act combo here, I believe would still leave the would leave the Gideon on the board.
I like how we have no indication that there's a Spiteful Sliver or a Blasphemous Act anywhere nearby, and we're just hoping for it anyway. We just want to see it.
We're at find the line here.
So, as it turns out, Spiteful Sliver can target planeswalkers.
Ooh.
So if we can set this up, we can annihilate everything, assuming. Oh well, never mind. There's a Supreme Verdict. Speaking of everything being annihilated.
Yeah.
I just want to point out the flavor text on Spiteful Sliver.
Oh, there we are. Necrotic Sliver.
Ooh. Violet in.
So, I wonder, does it probably didn't necessarily need to be vialed in at that point, as it's kind of like 6-1, half dozen of the other. Cause
yeah. This is literally Vindicate now.
Right.
And it could have been, yeah, if it were saved till next turn, it could become a Vindicate factory. Hurry up and kill these stupid planeswalkers. Yeah, he does. That is.
That's the plan.
Pretty necessary at this point.
I think
if you don't take out a Gideon here, you're missing an opportunity. Gonna take out the heart. All right. We're gonna assume that we can find pressure for the Gideons later.
So the idea maybe is to
remove the pressure. They're gonna be more knights.
Yeah, maybe get rid of the flyer, in the hopes that the only way that we're going to be able to get through for on John's side is in the air?
I think so, but he's down 2 Cloud Shredder Slivers. 3?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
3, I think. So I'm not loving those chances.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of not loving John's chances, period.
Yeah.
At this point in the game, but, you know, maybe there's a line somewhere. Looks like John picked up another cavern. That's
not going to do it.
Nope.
Spiteful Sliver. Victories against the Hive are tragedies. But so is Path to Exile.
Oh, okay.
Mirror Entity. So this is a cute one.
Yeah.
Old Lorwyn Classic. I believe it's X. All your creatures become XX with all creature types. And so if you've got a ton of Sliver abilities, you can still get Path to Exile. And I think this is it. I don't think we're done here.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going on here.
Sam was just unbelieving of the potential power of Necrotic Sliver.
You gotta watch that thing. It can totally be.
It can be a blowout.
It can be a Vindicate in combination with an Ether Vial.
Yeah, looks like John's gonna go ahead and pick it up. I think the writing is on the wall.
All right, so this match is gonna go 2-1 to Sam Didle over John Dawson. The Super Friends reign victorious today over the efforts of the Hive. Should we get another match maybe in the last 10, or should we sit here and just chat about the many, many things we can chat about?
I think let's take some time to chat about what's going on here. We've kind of it's like the elephant in the room. It's here, but we haven't really touched on it yet. So, Urchin, what happened today?
All right, this morning we heard from Wizards of the Coast. There were updates to the banned and restricted lists across all formats, but I think today we're going to focus on the updates to the modern banned and restricted list.
What? I thought we were going to talk about Vintage.
Oh, actually, how could I forget? It's really rampaging for Ferocidon that is critical. So I don't know if you guys know, but there are 4 critical weeks left before the rotation of Rampaging Ferocidon. The format's blown wide open, as far as I know. I think that you should snap those cards up right now.
People have been talking about Standard as the worst format that it's ever been, and Rampaging Ferocidon, we believe, will fix those
It's here.
Scape Ship decks that are just way too big of a portion of the meta.
Punish him. Just get him right out of here. He is here to save you. That is your savior dinosaur.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, okay, we've been funny. No more funnies. Do we really think Phoenix is dead and not play? Okay, let's back it up a minute. Let's get the easy one out of let's get the obvious elephant out of the room and out of the format. Hogak, Arisen Acropolis. They banned Bridge from Below. It really wasn't good enough. If anything, it forced innovation to make the Hogak deck worse. It just didn't have the combo kill, but it was just even worse on the creature front. Card was a mistake. Delve is a dangerous mechanic. Anything free is dangerous. I think, I heard someone was saying to me that a good qualification on Delve spells that are not insane is if they're interactive. Like things like Magmatic Sinkhole, fine. But proactive Delve spells, how many boat rides does it take to understand that that's not okay?
You try one cruise and you like it, and then, you go from there. So.
Yeah, there were some R&D members who never got off that boat.
But yeah, Hogak was a problem. We weren't going to be able to ban enough enablers to get to a point where that card was going to be acceptable. I think it would be potentially a lot of enablers, and I think it would just keep coming back. So Hogak is gone. That kills a deck, which is great. That was kind of the deck that needed to be targeted. What else do we have?
All right. So the real surprise, and this was one that I was advocating for on the last BNR, but from what they said about it on the last BNR, I really sort of gave up that they would even bother. But we lost Faithless Looting today. As of Friday, you will no longer be putting 2 dredgers into the graveyard. You will no longer be dumping 2 phoenixes in the graveyard on the first turn. All of these graveyard-centric strategies for which Faithless Looting functions as, a 1-mana divination, a 1-mana ancestral recall, those kind of things, or just setting up strategies just by taking cards from your hand that shouldn't be there. That card, in addition to its late game boost with flashback, we don't even need to touch, it's bad without the flashback. That card has ruled this format. There are so many decks that use it. There are so many graveyard decks, and it seems like at any given time, the top deck in the format is a Faithless Looting deck. And this was pointed out in the announcement. For a long time, it's just been trading around which Faithless Looting deck is dominant. And, now we're going to see what the format looks like without that.
It's going to be really weird. And actually, I do want to... we have a third member in the booth this evening who has maybe stood on the Faithless Looting banning soapbox for a number of times throughout the broadcast, and I feel like it would be unkind of me to not include this member in the discussion. So I'd like to pass off my headset to the soapbox Faithless Looting banner himself, Travis.
Thanks for the mic there, Ian. Today is a beautiful day. It's something I've been calling for a year, and yeah, it's great. It's great to see it happen. Fair decks are going to come back to Magic.
Yeah, we might see real interaction, not so much linear graveyard degeneracy. And I say this with all the love for linear graveyard degeneracy that I've had as a dredge player. Maybe we'll slow down. Do you think we'll slow down?
I definitely think stuff is going to slow down. People are probably going to be playing more counter spells, so the all-in combo decks get a little bit worse. People are going to probably experiment with all these really cool fair cards that were printed in Modern Horizons, like Seasoned Pyromancer and Rin and 6. They're going to probably start being played a lot in Modern, and just people are going to have room to experiment and not have the check of, oh, can you mulligan to your ley lines and then still present a clock because your opponent's going to interact with that. Probably decks like Burn and Tron are going to be like the format checks nowadays. Like you're going to have to beat big mana and have to beat Burn. But if you can do those two things, now you're going to be able to play whatever you want.
Yeah, I think Tron has been on the top of my mind as a deck that, benefited from the London Mulligan and hasn't been around as much because of how fast Hogak has been and how fast some of the graveyard decks have been. Um, and I think maybe, everyone's fears of it when the London Mulligan came out may now be a little bit more noticeable, because it has a chance to build up. And I think the rippling effects of that, just as I've been thinking about it today, so it's, off the cuff a little bit, is I think Thoughtseize becomes a better card. Because there are fewer graveyard interactive decks. There are going to be fewer just decks that are just, here's a pile of sort of redundant stuff. And Tron especially doesn't really love being Thoughtseized.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true, and I feel just personally and how I enjoy engaging with Magic, and a lot of people that have played for a long time, cards like Thoughtseize and Lightning Bolt, and when those are like good cards to be playing, then Magic is kind of an interesting game, and you're making
Yes.
lots of decisions, and it's less on like playing solitaire with your deck, and then you're playing solitaire against somebody else, and it, I can see the appeal to that, and it's fun to have some of those decks. But when the format like has devolved into that, because now your graveyard is your hand too, and so the only decks that are viable being tier one are those decks are the decks that can beat it. I'm happy.
Yes, it is a great day if you like making decisions that actually involve what your opponent is doing. And I think it is a healthy place for Magic to be. And I know that there's a lot of pain around, is it Phoenix specifically, because that deck wasn't doing the same level of degenerate stuff that the other graveyard decks were doing, and also did have a bunch of interaction, I feel like.
Yeah, I kind of would. I like Phoenix being the best Faithless Looting deck, but that is kind of a price that, fair decks are going to play degenerate cards because you can. And curious if the deck might just play something like Chart a Course or maybe Cathartic Reunion and slow down a bit, or what happens to it. I think maybe Blue Moon might get better now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to not having to facepalm myself while my opponent surgical extraction a random card in my graveyard because that's going to be less likely to be a sideboard card.
Yep. Careful study. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure about careful study. I'm not super into it. Like, the thing about it is that Faithless Looting was bad enough without flashback, which is exactly what careful study is. Um, I want to be open-minded, but it's the same thing. And I think, an alternative thing that could happen to Is It Phoenix is it could become Is It Not Phoenix. It could become Is It Aria. It could become Is It Pyromancer's Ascension. There are other things to be doing than playing the hasty 3/2s.
Like
and it still has all of those.
Young Pyromancer can fit in there. It can be. It used to be a deck with Thing in the Ice and Blue Moon for a while before Phoenix got printed, and there's various gradients between aggressive and controlling you can get with all those expensive cards that you have.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely a space for red-blue spell slinging in the format still, outside of Storm, which, by the way, if you're looking for a deck for immediate post banning, take a good look at Storm, because all of that splash damage it was catching is going to take a huge dip right now. And I think Storm might be secret great for a minute. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think Storm gets better because it's a deck that incidentally gets hated out by a lot of the other hate pieces that people play, like anti-graveyard hate, etc. So yeah, Storm's I think a kind of a fun combo deck to play against because you feel like you have choices, like you can kill creatures, you can make gifts piles, you're actually doing something while your opponent's winning the game, even if it doesn't really matter. But yeah.
It often does. Picking the right spell to counter is huge, and it can be very hard to read. You're like, is this the ritual I need to counter, or do you have something else in hand that's going to make this a total waste?
But it does look like we're way out of time in round in
we
the
were
last
past time in
matches.
round.
are finishing up, so we're just going to take a second and get ready for round number 2 here at Modern Mondays.